Suddenly, a strange small shop called Magic Cultivation House appeared on the sea. There are all kinds of eggs inside, as well as various magical creatures that seem to have eaten the devil's fruit. What is it called? Pokémon. Over time, this store gradually became famous throughout the world. The world's strongest man with white beard sends his child to Pokémon Academy all day long. Kapu, along with his good friend, beats his grandson all day and even becomes one of the 4 heavenly kings. The Pirate Empress became one of the 8 Taoist museum owners of the Pokémon Alliance. High Cold Eagle Eyes are on the brink of collapse every day due to their own Pokémon. The Navy has established a special operations unit called the Trainer Unit to eliminate pirates everywhere on the sea. The Beast Pirates were extremely envious and transformed into the Rocket Team, competing everywhere for treasure and dreams. The waves generated by these magical little creatures on the sea do not matter to Dak, as he is just an ordinary cultivator. Alright, it's almost time to start the first Pokémon conference. Everyone, please go to 8 Pokémon pavilions around the world to challenge and collect badges first. Ladies and gentlemen, times have changed, and One Piece is already a thing of the past. Please strive towards the goal of Master Pokémon. Tags. Pokémon, Pirate King, Form Faction, Invincible Flow, All Heaven's Main World. Pirate King, Second World. Hokage, Tentative, Keywords of the novel. Pokémon Cultivation House starting from the Pirates without pop-ups, complete download of the full text of Pokémon Cultivation House starting from the Pirates, and reading of the latest chapters of Pokémon Cultivation House starting from the Pirates. Chapter 1. Starting from today, be a cultivator, follow up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Starting from today, be a cultivator, follow up. P.S. The timeline of One Piece follows the previous statement that Roger died in 1498, which means that Luffy set sail in 1520. Detected gradual recovery of host consciousness, cultivate master system, start. We are building a virtual store building void rules. We are building a void channel, under construction. Dake listened to the buzzing sound in his mind and felt a splitting headache. He covered his head and opened his eyes. He seemed to be lying on a lawn, with the sound of water flowing in his ears. The view gradually regained, and when I opened my eyes, I saw a pure white ceiling adorned with a few clouds. In the center, there was a warm orange light like the sun. Construction completed. The sharp pain in his mind gradually subsided, and it was only then that Dak had the time to see everything around him clearly. Where is it? This is a closed cubic space, measuring 10 meters in length, width, and height. The space for activities is only 100 square meters, not too large. The floor of the room was a lawn, and Dak pulled up a piece of grass. It was true, and there was still soil underneath the grass, but the sky on the ceiling is fake. On the west side is a dwarf tree about 2 or 3 meters tall, lush and emitting a faint fragrance. On the east side is a small lake with a radius of 1 meter, about 2 meters deep, clear to the bottom. There is a small fountain in the center of the lake, and it is unknown where the spring water comes from. The temperature in this space is suitable, slightly warm, and it should be the light on the ceiling emitting heat. There is nothing else in the room besides that. Dak is still a bit unresponsive to the current situation. I only remember before he fainted, he was playing basketball. Just when he took a 3-point backward jump shot, he fainted and woke up here. Time traveled. System. Just now, during the period of confusion, it seemed like he heard some system start, so Dak called out gently to the surroundings. Cultivating master system, serving you, currently loaded functions. Magic store, magic will, magic mall, task system, blacklist, pocket token, magic portal, main task released, main task. Opening, content. Opening the store to welcome guests, reward. Supreme luxury beginner gift pack, wait, what store? Dak was confused when he heard it. This system aims to cultivate the host as the world's first Mon cultivation master. A magic shop is a breeding house belonging to the host, which can sell your cultivated Mon eggs or Mon to the public, and also provide Mon related services to customers. The magical store is located in a void space, with rules constructed by the void. External attacks cannot enter the store, and all customers entering the store will be suppressed to the same level as the Yangtze crocodile, Chinese alligator. Where's the Chinese alligator? How strong is it? Dake's brow furrowed, with a hint of caution in his eyes. If you make a Chinese alligator from a food hunter or a Chinese alligator from the cultivation world, it's too dangerous. It's your current level, Dot. A bit polite, not much. Dak pursed his lips and recalled the several functions that the system had just mentioned. Some of them knew what they were by name, after all, he had read many novels like this. However, he was puzzled by the latter too. What do pocket tokens and magic portal mean? Magic portal. The space outside the store is constantly changing, and no one in the main world knows whether opening a door will enter the store. This is to prevent the host from being harassed frequently in the future. Pocket token. Guests holding this token can enter the store by opening a door no matter where they are. It is recommended to distribute it to regular customers. So if I go out, I don't know where I'll get to, do I? Dak was stunned for a moment. What should I do if I step into the magma while going out? A big and special event. You can specify any coordinates you have already visited in the current world. If not specified, the destination will be random. For guests, they will return to the destination from where they came from. What should I do if I come back? Do I also need to take that token? As a store manager, you can open a door anytime and anywhere to decide whether to return to the store. Isn't it the all heavens and all realms? What does the current world mean? At present, the store is still in its infancy and lacks the conditions to connect to other worlds. It can only operate in the current world. Current world. Pirate King, Dak nodded, pondering to himself. Although the world of the One Piece King may not be considered too safe, it is still acceptable within the heavens and realms. At least he is quite clear about the timeline and power within the One Piece King. If he goes to something like the Trisolarans or Warhammer, he will choose to go on the spot. Pirate King, at least there's still room for improvement, and it's not too difficult. How many years is it in the High Yuan calendar now? Under testing, year 1511 of the High Yuan calendar, 1511. Dake sat cross-legged on the ground, trying to recall the current world situation outside. The High Yuan calendar 1511 was a relatively stable year, and there were basically no major events during this year. It can be considered a relatively stable period of development, which is a good time for opening and accumulating strength. Compared to that, there were many things that happened in the year 1512 of the High Yuan calendar. Now that you have accumulated strength, you can do more things. At this time, the maritime situation has gradually stabilized. In the New World, the three emperors divide the country, and the navy has a stable structure of one commander and 3 generals. If there is any turbulence that has affected the world in recent years, it is nothing more than the replacement of a few people in the 7 armed seas and the relocation of the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Long, to the forefront. The timing is good, let's open. Dak nodded. Linking Void Channel, link completed, please name your store, Magic Cultivation House. Naming completed, store opened. With the sound of this notice, a dark brown antique wooden door suddenly appeared on the wall behind Dake. The main task has been completed, Novice Gift Pack has been distributed, ability obtained. Overlord Color Overlord LV.10, obtaining security. Dockley LV.100, obtained. Mon Egg X10, obtained. Cultivator. From newcomer to master, X1, help me organize a personal panel. Dak listened to the sound in his ear and felt his head in a mess. But he did hear it, as if he had obtained something very remarkable. Undoubtedly, it is the Supreme Luxury Novice Gift Pack. DAQ, Identity. Magical Cultivation House Store Manager, New Talent Cultivation Home, Ability. Overlord Color, Domineering LV.10, Strength LV.1, Agility LV.1, Stamina LV.1, Cultivation LV.1, Pokémon. Darkly, LV, 100, Note. The level displayed by Pokémon is estimated based on strength in the current world. The full level template is the strongest in the world's history, not its true level in the native world. Its level may change in other worlds, and the level of Darkly happens to be similar to that of the strongest in this world's history. Great, starting today as a cultivator. Dak. As Dak's words fell, a mysterious and eerie figure gradually rose in the shadow behind him. Darkly. This is a mysterious creature covered in pitch black, with a neck that seems to be wearing a red scarf, white hair, and only a blue eye exposed. In the world of Pokémon, he is the evil fantasy Pokémon with the nightmare god. Pokémon, which only exists in legends, has hardly been seen by many people. Dak carefully examined Dak lie in front of him, who was his first companion and also his thigh for a long time to come. Hello, Darkly, my name is Darkly, and in the days to come, we will be partners fighting side by side. Dak took the initiative to extend his hand and say hello. It's false to say you're not excited when you first see a real Pokémon. If given the opportunity, who wouldn't want to bring their family to live in the world of Pokémon? Dak. Darkly nodded and reached out to shake hands with Darkly. Now he is also a bit confused. After waking up from sleep, he suddenly came to this place. It seems that he has been caught by the man in front of him. However, for him, this was not a big deal. In his thousands of years of life, he had already spent enough lonely time, and the muddled days every day almost made him lose himself. Becoming a companion to a trainer was also a novel experience. The person in front of him feels quite good, even his name is so similar. Overlord Color Overlord LV.10, the highest level of ability is level 10, which means that this domineering level is full. In the entire world of pirates, it is unknown how many of them can achieve this level of dominance, but it will definitely not exceed the number of hands. When Dak gained this ability, he felt that his wild hope in his heart was being magnified. This is not an implanted idea, but a subconscious that he already has but is suppressed due to limited abilities. There are many things in my mind that I want to do, such as changing the pattern of the world. If you are poor, you will be good for yourself, if you are good, you will benefit the world. This is what he has learned. In the past, I used to feel difficult to live alone due to my lack of ability, so I could only stand idly by and criticize those bad guys online. He still doesn't have the ability now, but he will definitely have it in the future, so he has more things to do and his will is gradually becoming stronger. I don't know if this change is related to the emergence of domineering and domineering colors, and I don't need to know, that's not important. Although I really want to try to release the feeling of dominance, let's talk about it when we have the chance in the future. Dak thought for a moment and decided whether to let it go or not. The first time I use the domineering color, it may be difficult to control and damage the things in the store, especially those little ones who are obediently waiting on the lawn. Let's take a look at these cute babies first. Dak turned his head to look at the 10 eggs suddenly emerging under the tree. Oval-shaped, colorful, each pattern is unique, reflecting a delicate luster under warm lighting, making it look extremely cute. Dak. Darkly also looked at the 10 eggs with a curious expression on his face. He had never taken care of eggs or Pokémon in his long life, and the thought of constantly taking care of various Pokémon eggs and Pokémon cubs in the future made him a little excited and nervous. They leaned under the tree at the same time, bent down and quietly stared at the 10 eggs nestled together, even breathing cautiously without realizing it. Dak reached out his hand and cautiously picked up a pink egg and placed it in his arms. Warm, hold and see. Dak handed the pink egg to Dak. Dak. Darkly widened his eyes as he looked at the approaching egg and hurriedly took it over. It took him a while to calm his excited heart and trembling hands. Looking at the little life dragged in his hand, Darkly found the desire to live for the first time. He wants to protect these little ones and watch them born and grow up. Dak couldn't help but grin as he looked at Darkly's expression. To him, Darkly was not much different from a blank piece of paper. Perhaps Darkly lived for a long, long time, but he understood very little. Because no one had ever taken him through these things before, and no one told him what they were. But it's okay, Dak will gradually teach him in the future. Darkly put the egg back in his hand and quietly stood by, like a tree stump, standing, staring, and guarding foolishly. Dak did not disturb Darkly. Each Pokémon has its own style of behavior. Perhaps Darkly's style of behavior is like this. He opened the task panel, and now the task has been updated. Main task. The starting point of the trainer, content. Selling the first Pokémon egg, reward. Ability. Qualification detection, Pokémon, daily task. Clean the storefront, wipe Pokémon eggs, and make the little ones feel comfortable. Daily task. Take the Pokémon eggs out of the store for a walk and bask in the sun. Daily task. Tell Pokémon bedtime stories. Reward. Strength/sensitivity/body increase micro experience. The main task is urgent. As the parents of these children, Dake wants to find a trustworthy partner for them as much as possible. In this world, there is nothing to do with justice or evil, but there are some people who simply do not deserve the favor of Pokémon, such as the Tianlong people, most members of the world government, most world nobles, and the vast majority of pirates. These people are highly likely to use Pokémon as props to gain benefits and achieve goals. If he can't find the right person, then he will take care of these children for a lifetime. Dak's gaze shifted downwards towards the 3 daily tasks. The first and third ones were fine, but the second one made him feel some pressure. After all, he doesn't know what kind of place it will be outside after leaving the door. However, such pressure is limited, and now Dak has some confidence to go out. The source of confidence is not domineering and domineering, but Darkly. He doesn't know how powerful the fully rated Darkly is in this world, but it seems that not everything can be matched. At present, the things that can be achieved by the domineering aura in his hands are very limited. When facing some top-level powerhouses, this thing is not very useful. On the contrary, his physique may be affected by the shock waves generated by the collision of the domineering aura. It is true that hardware cannot support the use of software. Darkly, why don't you accompany me to take a look outside the door first? Dake took a deep breath and decided to go out first to explore the way for the children. After determining a safe coordinate, take the eggs out for a walk and bask in the sun. Dak. Darkly nodded and accompanied Darkly towards the door. After being mentally prepared, Darkly opened the door. Try not to keep books, follow up on books for free, click on the latest chapters, and the last book will be taken care of by me. End of this chapter. Is the beginning of chapter 2 Hell Level. Seeking follow.up reading. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is the beginning of chapter 2 Hell Level. Seeking follow.up reading. At the moment the door opened, Dak froze. What appeared before me was a deck, filled with noise and excitement everywhere, as if a grand banquet was being held. If that's all, it wouldn't be a big trouble. But the problem is, sitting at the forefront of the deck, in the direction that Dak is facing, there is a tall and terrifying man sitting. The man was holding a huge sword, with a white beard curved upwards on his face. If you can't even recognize this man, Dak doesn't have to think about those big dreams anymore. The strongest man in the world, captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, Edward Newgate. Dak was only stunned for 2.5 seconds before starting to retreat, intending to return to the store. Suddenly, a pineapple head appeared next to him, placing its arm on his shoulder and leading him forward a few steps. Then, the door behind him naturally closed. By the way, you seem a bit unfamiliar. Are you a new crew member? Wearing a purple shirt and bare chest, the pineapple head seemed a bit intoxicated. He leaned his face in front of Dak and carefully glanced, but couldn't see who it was. Marco, the captain of the first team and the ship doctor of the Whitebeard pirates. At the beginning, it was hell level. Hey, you're really teasing me. Just as Dakton ignited his passion in the store, he felt a basin of cold water pouring down his head. I feel cold in my heart. He is still an ordinary person now, big brother. At least let him develop and come back to this place. Dak. Darkly hid in Darkly's shadow. He seemed to feel Dak's panic and had already planned to take action to teach this pineapple head a lesson. However, Dak quickly waved his hand to stop Darkly's attack. If he really takes action, that will be the true hellish start, and the Whitebeard pirates will rise up and attack him. He doesn't believe that Darkly is strong enough to fight against the entire Whitebeard pirates while still maintaining his position. The true combat power system of Darkly has been clearly explained, which is similar in strength to the strongest in the history of this world. What if the contrasting character is a young man with a white beard? After all, Whitebeard is known as the strongest of this era. Dak doesn't know how much difference Whitebeard's current level is compared to his peak, but if young Whitebeard is the full level template, then Darkly would never have the time to draw his hand to protect him from thousands of other people while fighting Whitebeard. The current situation is actually quite stable, it depends on how he performs. Well, yes, I just boarded the ship a few days ago. By the way, I think I've almost finished my drink. I'll go get some. Dak pursed his lips and smiled, then with a loud laugh, he dodged under Marco's arm and walked towards the nearby room. As long as he opens the door, he can return to the store as soon as possible. It will be safe then. Schwa. Accompanied by the petals of 2 roses falling. A western knife lay horizontally in front of Dak's face, and as soon as he took another step forward, he would hit the blade. Just by seeing those 2 petals, you can tell who stopped him. The captain of the 5th team of the Whitebeard pirates, Biasta, is a great swordsman. After going back, you must try your best to get the fruit of the door. Dak's mood has fallen to the bottom now. If he can get the fruit of the door, then he will basically stand invincible in the future. I don't remember someone like you on the ship. Little brother, how did you get on board? Wearing a gentleman's hat and a black suit, Bista stared cautiously at Dak. Being able to touch the Mobidic under the watchful eye of their group of captains is definitely not a simple person. Marco's whine woke up instantly, and he put his arm back on Dak's shoulder, with a slightly threatening smile on his face. Explain, he said. The movement here has caught everyone's attention. When Dak felt the oppressive gaze shift towards him, he knew he couldn't run away. Can you allow me to speak over there? Dak gritted his head and pointed not far in front of Newgate. His meaning is very clear, he wants to have a conversation with your boss. Marco, let him come over. Newgate heard what Duke had said. He was a bit curious, what did the handsome guy who looked just in his early 20s want to say to him? Got it, Dad. You're lucky and happen to have our happy day. Marco Young raised his chin and then walked up to Newgate with Dak, standing next to him and watching Dak. At this moment, everyone is moving away from the middle position and standing on both sides in a surrounding manner, which is completely the same treatment as facing Shanks in the original work. Deku looked at their appearance and almost thought he was a formidable figure who could rival Shanks. I'm sorry to disturb you suddenly. Dak first bent slightly, showing the courtesy that a country of etiquette should have. I did suddenly appear at someone else's house and disturb their banquet, and this apology is fine. How did you get up here? Newgate doesn't care about this, what he cares about is how the person in front of him managed to infiltrate their headquarters in front of everyone. Is it a demon fruit power practitioner? This is a long story. Allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Dake, a cultivator and also the manager of the Magic Cultivation House. Dake sorted out his mindset and calmly began introducing. The pressure from the Whitebeard pirates is not small, but it can be seen that this group of people is still reasonable. If they speak well, there should be no danger. Cultivate a family. Cultivate what things? Marco asked curiously and was very supportive. Pokémon. XN. The sudden emergence of the term DAC plunged everyone into confusion. I searched my entire brain and couldn't find out what it was. This is a very magical creature, you can also call it a spirit. Deku saw everyone's confusion and patiently explained to them, there are many types of them, and there are probably thousands of them, each with magical powers. You can imagine them as animals that have eaten the fruit of demons. Dake's explanation is simple and easy to understand, and the key is that even the most foolish person knows what's going on after giving an example. You said, are you cultivating this kind of organism? Standing on the other side of Newgate, the large, diamond Jors, who had been silent all along, spoke up. Yes. Dak knew that this alone would not be trusted, so he reached out to the side and said, Dak lie. Amidst the surprised gazes of all members of the Whitebeard pirates, Darkly gradually rose from within Darker's shadow. Hello, what is that thing? Did you come out of the shadow? What he said is actually true. The world is vast and full of wonders. I feel like I'm going to have nightmares tonight. The deck of the Mobidic suddenly became lively, and even Newgate's eyes couldn't help but show an interested expression. After living for 63 years and traveling almost every corner of the ocean, it was the first time he had seen such a magical creature. And it's actually artificially cultivated, I heard there are over 1,000 types. Dak noticed the change in Newgate's gaze and felt certain that he probably wouldn't have an accident, so he breathed a sigh of relief. Next, we can start promoting and see if we can sell the first egg, but we need to first showcase the charm of Pokémon. The style of the Whitebeard pirates. A feeling worthy of Pokémon. What abilities does he have? The captain of the fourth team, Sachai, seemed very interested in Darkly and couldn't help but take 2 steps closer before asking a question. Dak has a good sense of sake. Because this person's gaze at him from beginning to end was very gentle, making Dak almost unable to feel any pressure, he seemed to be a very easy-going person. Upon hearing Saki's question, Dark was overjoyed. I'm really dozing off. Please send me a pillow. Please take a look at the V display. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Do you want to be my son? Seeking follow. Up reading. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Do you want to be my son? Seeking follow. Up reading. Let me take a look. As soon as Dak finished speaking, Marco transformed into an undead bird and flew up into the sky, overlooking Dak lie below. Dak. Darkly glanced at Darkly beside him, and after he nodded, he also flew into the sky. In the legendary Pokémon, there are almost none that cannot fly. Take action. Marco is very confident and doesn't want to bully the weak. In his opinion, this mysterious guy in front of him cannot be stronger than him, so he doesn't plan to take action. Can move him, even if this guy is powerful. Dark Cave. Dak is commanding Pokémon for the first time, and he feels a bit excited inside. First, let's develop Cly's exclusive skills. Darkly raised his hand and reached out to Marco. In an instant, the spatial location of Marco suddenly twisted, and a huge black hole with a radius of 50 meters emerged out of nowhere, absorbing Marco. Marco didn't react at all, or rather, he had originally planned to forcefully shoulder Cly's moves to test his power. But he didn't expect that the trick wouldn't come from the palm that Darkly lifted, but rather came directly from the space he was in. The vast majority of capable individuals in this world release their moves from their own starting point, with only a very small number of demon fruits being able to be directly released from a certain spatial point, and this also requires prerequisites, such as the room of the surgical fruit. Darkly's move clearly hit everyone off guard. The massive black hole with a diameter of 100 meters that appeared in the sky made everyone feel an endless sense of oppression, and the disappearing Marco left everyone in a daze. Everyone, don't worry. He's fine, he just fell asleep in the dark space. Dake's forehead was slightly sweating, and he spoke before the Whitebeard pirate ship could react. He is afraid that after these people react, he won't have a chance to explain and the people will be gone. Upon hearing what Dak had said, members of the Whitebeard pirates shifted their gaze towards him, their eyes filled with danger and vigilance. Even Marco was killed in an instant, wouldn't they be even more dangerous? No one noticed that a fat man with black hair was bowing his head in the crowd, his eyes filled with madness and disbelief. Dockley returned to Dockley's side and cleverly waved his hand. A black hole with a diameter of 2 meters appeared next to him, and Marco fell out of it. Hoo. At this moment, Marco was lying on the deck, snoring and drooling. However, he has not suffered any injuries and appears to be in good condition. Sachai ran over and shook Marco up, who woke up in confusion and a bit confused. Fool! You're amazing, kid. Newgate glanced at Marco, shook his head helplessly, and then looked at Dak and Dockley. Cultivate, is this your demon fruit ability? The captain of the 16th team, Izong, asked a man who looked beautiful like a girl. No, it's not. Dak thought for a moment and then shook his head. He had considered the idea of saying so, but he still rejected it, because in the future, he would also sell Pokémon eggs and Pokémon to customers, and they would know that this was not a special cultivation ability, but the unlimited potential of the Pokémon themselves. Do you have the power not to keep and cultivate it yourself, but to take it out and sell it? Joe's, this big guy, has a wit that doesn't match his appearance. In his opinion, if there is enough power like Darkly, dominating the world is not a problem at all. But this person wants to sell it. What is the purpose? Pokémon don't just belong to me. They will have their own will after birth and should follow their partners to appreciate the beauty of this world. I only hope they can grow up happily and live a wonderful and regretless life. Dak understood the meaning behind Jaw's words, but he really didn't have the idea of dominating the world. It's true that he wants to complete the system's tasks, but if his Pokémon are sold and his life is not happy or satisfactory. So he really won't do this task. Anyway, there was no punishment. For this statement, a considerable number of people in the Whitebeard pirates do not trust it, and those who are accustomed to the intrigues on the sea are not as likely to believe others. I believe him. Newgate spoke up. At this moment, there was a hint of agreement in his eyes as he looked at Dak. What Dak said can only be understood by him, who is also a parent. He is the strongest in the world, and there are many legends outside that he has great ambitions, wanting to become the pirate king or rule the world, all sorts of things are in chaos. But in reality, he only hopes that his foolish sons can grow up happily and live happily and safely. As the leader of the Whitebeard pirates, when Newgate spoke up, the others directly changed their views and also became obedient to Drake. This kind of commanding and rallying power is truly astonishing. Can every Pokémon achieve that ability just now? At this moment, Marco regained his senses and looked at Darkly. Just now, Darkly's move left him with a considerable psychological shadow. Suddenly, he fell asleep, and who could resist it? He didn't even react to his aggressive demeanor. No, that's a Pokémon ability unique to Darkly. Dak shook his head and explained to the crowd without hesitation, Darkly's previous move, the Dark Hole, directly affected the power of space. The Dark Hole is an extremely unstable void wormhole, mainly responsible for connecting to the dark space. If anyone among you can have an impact on space, then this move is likely to fail. What Dak said was actually all his own speculation, but this kind of speculation is not unreasonable. Newgate used his ability to shake the fruit to punch the dark hole, which was probably unable to withstand. Products like door fruits and surgical fruits can also avoid the effects of dark holes. However, not every type of Pokémon has the ability to act on space. Some Pokémon are even more terrifying, possessing the ability to act on time. That's good. Wait, not everyone is so strong, right? As soon as Marco breathed a sigh of relief, he immediately regained his senses. No, when Pokémon were born, they were very weak and may be similar to human cubs, but their potential is theoretically infinite. By carefully cultivating and growing up, they can also become very strong. Dake didn't say too much, but he didn't say anything wrong either. It's not that it's necessary to be a god or even a divine beast to grow to the level where Cly is today, it's only that these Pokémon will be promoted to this level with ease. Even if Pokémon like the big needlebee and the little mountain pig are well cultivated, they can destroy the sky and the earth. Gulalala is interesting. Newgate is now very interested in the Pokémon mentioned by Dak, and he wants to see and experience every type of Pokémon. Oh. So, do you want to go to my store and pick a Pokémon egg? Dake's eyes lit up, and it seemed that the Whitebeard Pirates could become his first customer. All members of the Whitebeard Pirates look at their own father, and it depends on the captain's decision. Of course, but before that, Nyogai nodded and stood up, walking up to Dake. Do you want to be my son? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Magic Cultivation House, Follow Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Magic Cultivation House, Follow Up. Darker was numb, he didn't expect Newgate to suddenly say such a sentence. Moreover, for his height of 1.8 meters, the oppressive feeling of 6.6 meters in Newgate is too strong, covering him in a shadow that covers the sky and sun. Sorry, although I don't mind relegating to others, joining the pirates' position is not conducive to opening a store for me. Dak shook his head and expressed his most genuine thoughts in his heart. Golala. I knew you were also an amazing guy. Newgate smiled nonchalantly. He had already seen that Dak would be someone who wanted to do big things, whether it was the power he possessed or the elusive aura he had when facing the entire Whitebeard Pirates before. He shouldn't feel wrong. So, please follow me and I'll take you to my store. The customer is God, and at this moment, Dake transforms into a top salesperson, very polite. Well, tell Marco the location, he will adjust the heading. Newgate didn't react yet and called for Marco to come over. I'm sorry, I didn't explain clearly. The Magic Cultivation House is a store located in the void. Although there are channels to the store everywhere in this world, it actually doesn't exist in this world, so it cannot be reached by sailing. Dak scratched his head and in a few words, he filled their store with pressure. Since it has already brought some shock to the Whitebeard Pirates, why not try a little more? He doesn't intend to act forced, nor does he like to pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger, he's just telling the truth. The main theme is honesty. Hello. Are you serious, this guy? If it weren't for you just showing your strength, I would have kicked you into the sea like a lunatic. Marco was somewhat shocked as he looked at Dak, who didn't look like he was joking. He felt that his worldview was gradually collapsing. Tell me. Newgate maintained a calm demeanor. After all, just now Darkly had already demonstrated the power of space. Although what Dak is saying now is even more unbelievable, with preheating, it is not too difficult to accept. Of course, that was without listening to the following paragraph. In fact, there is an endless world in the entire universe, which I call the all heavens and all boundaries. The world you are in belongs to one of them, and the magical cultivation house is located in the space gap between the all heavens and all boundaries. Did Dak lie? No, everything he said is true, just using the art of language to elevate the power of the magical cultivation house once again. After he finished speaking, the entire Mobidic fell silent. The sea was calm and the surrounding environment fell into a dead silence. Do you know what you're talking about? Newgate took the lead in speaking, staring at Dak with a pair of eyes. What Dak is saying now is also shattering his values with a single punch, and he cannot believe what Dak is saying. I know it's difficult for you to accept, come with me. Dak shook his head, he could understand Newgate. Isn't the mindset the same when traveling through and acquiring the system on your own? However, unlike the situation faced by the Whitebeard pirates, he has already traveled through time. It is unacceptable to not accept the bloody fact in front of him. If it were before the journey, he would never believe that there is such a saying in this world. Dak walked towards a certain door, with Newgate following behind him. As a result, Newgate moved and all members of the Whitebeard pirates followed suit. Wait a minute. The Magic Cultivation House has just opened and the area inside is still very small, unable to accommodate so many of you. Dak quickly turned around to stop. Where can we fit so many people in that 100 square meter area? Hello, then what you just said was so impressive. I'm not wrong either. Dak shook his head innocently. The current magical breeding house is indeed just starting, but it will definitely become very powerful in the future. Marco, Sachai, you two come with me, the others stay on the Mobidic. Yes, Dad, X and Newgate selected the person to go together within 2 seconds. It goes without saying that Marco was chosen, while Sachai was chosen by Newgate because he showed the strongest curiosity about Pokémon. Dak nodded and then led the 3 people forward. The exaggerated footsteps behind Newgate made Dak's heart tremble every time they sounded, and the human body of this world was too exaggerated. Hey! Dak, don't lie to us. Saki, who was very familiar with it, ran to Dak's side and hooked up with him. That's right, if you're lying to us, you can honestly join us as our father's son, ha ha ha. Marco was not as vigilant as he was at the beginning, he could see that Dak was no longer hostile. I won't deceive you. Dak had already led everyone to a huge door in front of everyone's eyes, and then began pushing the door with both hands. No push. This is the captain's quarters. Marco stepped forward and opened the door. Inside was the captain's cabin on the Mobidic. Now everyone began to look at Dak with skeptical eyes. After all, Dak is also too weak. Can't even push open a door. No, you can't push the door. I have to open it to get there. Dak shook his head and explained, then began to think about what to do. Anyway, things like magical tokens cannot be given randomly. Then let's hold your hand and push it. Saki jumped over. Okay, give it a try. Dak nodded and then placed his hand on the door. Later, Saki pressed his hand onto Dak's hand and began to exert force, causing a gay scene. But that's not important. Because the door opened, behind it was not the familiar captain's cabin, but another room. Nanny. Surprisingly, it's true. Where is that? There's also a lawn and a lake, and I can see trees. Look, there are a few colorful eggs under the tree. That should be some Pokémon egg. The scene was once very restless. The members of the Whitebeard pirates couldn't help but approach and stretch their necks to look into the space inside the door. Because this door is very large, it allows many people to look inside. This made Dak realize that it would be better to have a door curtain blocking the entrance in the future, so as not to lose any privacy. Let's go. Dak finally felt relieved when he saw his own store. As long as he entered here, he was safe. Darkly couldn't wait to fly into the store and run under the tree to carefully check the condition of the eggs. Subsequently, Dak stepped into the store. Marco and Sachai behind him followed in without any illusions. Wait, Dad. Don't come in. Just as Marco and Sachai stepped into it, they immediately reached out to stop Newgate from entering the store. What's wrong? Newgate frowned and looked at Dak, unaware of what the person in front of him had done. Strength has been suppressed. That's right, I feel like I've become very weak after stepping here, I'm afraid I can't even beat the geese in the kitchen. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Egg selection, read after. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 5 Egg Selection, read after. Marco and Sachai had a solemn expression, and they could clearly perceive their own state. Marco raised his hand and used his fruit power, only releasing one spark. Oh! Newgate was not in a hurry to bring Marco and Sachai back, because Dak had no intention of doing anything to them. He didn't feel any malice from Dake. This is the rule of our magical cultivation house. In order to prevent some unreasonable customers from harming the Pokémon in the store, the strength of those who enter the store will be suppressed. If you are worried, you can stand outside the door without any problem. Dak turned around and smiled at Newgate outside the door. Now, he is not panicking at all. All external attacks cannot enter the breeding house, and even if he cannot defeat the people inside the breeding house, there is still Darkly. Dak is not arrogant enough to believe that he can beat the current Marco and Sachai. Even if their hardware is suppressed to the same level as Dak, their combat experience and skills are not comparable to him. The domineering color is domineering and cannot be used indiscriminately. I see. Nyogai nodded and agreed with Dake's statement. He threw the Tsongyun in his hand onto the deck behind him and walked into the store with great courage. At the moment he stepped on the lawn, Newgate also felt that he had become very weak. He probably wasn't as weak when he was first born. Dark didn't know he had been slandered once in the dark, but instead walked up to the tree and looked at the condition of the eggs with Darkly. It's no different from before going out. I don't know how long it will take to hatch, so this day is probably not short. Dake turned his head and glanced at the three people behind him, surveying the environment and layout of the store. First, close the door. It's so noisy outside, it will affect the baby's rest. Dak waved his hand at Newgate and pointed to the eggs under the tree. Newgate glanced at the eggs and then closed the door, causing the store to suddenly become quiet. Oh my goodness, what he said is actually true. Is there really another world that exists? Dad, I want to go see it. Marco and Sachai looked like they had just gone to sea with Newgate when they were young, full of curiosity and confusion on their faces. Newgate did not respond. That's not something they should be exposed to at their level, even Roger doesn't know about such things. If it weren't for Dak's appearance informing them, they probably wouldn't have believed in the existence of other worlds. Can we go to other worlds? Saki looked curiously at Dak, and Marco and Newgate also looked at him. I don't know if it's possible to let you go to other worlds, maybe it's possible, maybe it's not possible, but you will definitely make contact with people from other worlds through our magical cultivation house. Since it is a system at the level of heaven and earth, there will definitely be people from other worlds coming to the magical cultivation house in the future. At that time, people from different worlds will inevitably come to the magical cultivation house at the same time, and they will come into contact with each other. Interesting. Marco grinned and became interested in people from other worlds. It's too early to say that now. Our magical breeding house is only open to your world, and connecting to the next world will be at least 1 or 2 years away. Okay. Marco and Sachai's excitement decreased, while their focus shifted to those eggs. Eggs that can hatch mysterious creatures. The feeling of opening a blind box made them feel a bit excited. Marco, Sachai, pretend not to know what happened just now when you go back. At this moment, Newgate spoke up. He could imagine how crazy his silly sons would be when they found out about these things, and he might even come up with something new. This kind of thing that shatters people's values is not suitable for large-scale promotion. Since those are things that won't happen in 1 or 2 years, let's not talk about them for now. At least let him have 2 years of quiet life. Marco and Sachai are both those who have brains and can understand what Newgate means. You said you want to sell these eggs. Our Whitebeard pirates bought them all. Newgate shifted his gaze to the egg under the tree and then opened his mouth to Darker. No, you can only buy one at most now. Without any hesitation, Dak shook his head and refused. He did not doubt the treatment that Pokémon received in the Whitebeard Pirates. He knew that the Whitebeard Pirates were one of the few groups among the pirates that could be entrusted to Pokémon. They will definitely become good companions for the Pokémon. However, the Whitebeard Pirates have never had any experience cultivating Pokémon before, and they don't understand anything, unlike Dak, who at least has a book to learn. Pokémon and human living habits are completely different. Moreover, each type of Pokémon has its own race-specific lifestyle habits, and these alone are a college question. Hand over 10 Pokémon eggs to the Whitebeard Pirates at once. Not to mention whether they can treat every egg equally and with care. The various care that Pokémon need before and after birth is definitely not what the Whitebeard Pirates can provide. If every egg is a Pokémon of the same race, wouldn't the White-bearded Pirates just be in chaos? Therefore, he is currently only willing to sell them one egg so that they can wholeheartedly take care of this little one. Only after he has confirmed that the Whitebeard Pirates have the ability and experience to take care of the little ones will he agree to sell more Pokémon eggs to the Whitebeard Pirates. Dak also candidly informed the three people in front of him about all of this. After hearing these things, they also understood why Dak was only willing to sell one egg. They also understand that Dak is different from profit-oriented businessmen. He really cares about whether his Pokémon life can be happy in the future. Okay, then just one. The button cap nodded and didn't say anything else. Ultimately, it's because he agrees with Dak's philosophy. If you ask him to marry off all his daughters on his own boat at once, he's not willing either. Who knows if his daughters will be happy after getting married? But which one should I choose? Marco is in a state of distress. He has some difficulty choosing. Damn it, I can't see anything useful from outside. Saki also frowned and stared at the 10 eggs carefully, but didn't notice anything. Please don't worry, what you are choosing now is not pets, but your future partners and family. Please be more serious, even if it takes a long time, it's okay. I'm not in a hurry. Dak tried his best to calm the two of them, but he was also nervous about selling Pokémon eggs for the first time. Family members. Newgate squatted down and looked at 10 small eggs. These eggs were too small in his eyes, and this world's strongest man was also lost. He had not faced such a dilemma in a long time. It's even more convoluted than asking him to attack the Navy headquarters. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. First egg, read after. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. First egg, read after. Dake stood on the side, watching Newgate's appearance, and suddenly thought of such a scene in his mind. Newgate shouted to the trainer across from him on the field, "Let him see our bonds." Puff. Dak had already tried hard to cover his mouth with his hands, but he couldn't help it. Ha! What are you laughing at, store manager? Marco was conflicted and turned his head to look at Dak. Now that Dak's words have been confirmed, Dak's identity has quietly been elevated, and Marco and Satch no longer intend to lightly call Dak's name. Although Dak is not concerned about addressing issues. It's nothing, just right, you guys pick it up. I also have something I want to talk to you about here. Dake first shook his head, then put away his smile and became serious. Now in his own territory, he has straightened up and spoke with a stiff voice, so he naturally has to say some things. You speak. Marco raised his eyebrows as he looked at Dak's expression. Pokémon are a very magical creature. They will give you back as much as you invest in their emotions. They have their own will and thoughts, not the simple wildness of beasts, but to a degree no different from humans. When they were born, they were like a blank sheet of paper, and you were the brushes on this blank sheet of paper. If they don't grow as you expected in the future, then there is no doubt that you, as elders, have failed too much. Dake's words diverted the attention of the three Newgate people to him. What he said was not euphemistic, very straightforward. Even if it was true, there were not many people in the world who dared to say these words to these three people. For most people, just standing in front of them will make their legs tremble. Dak didn't feel any negative emotions from the three of them, they were just listening attentively to what he said. These children came out of my hands, and I must choose qualified partners for them. I don't care what they will become in the future, whether they are heroes of great attention or villains of extreme poverty. As long as it is their own choice, as long as they are not bullied and live happily, I will not interfere in their growth. Dake's statement is mainly about Newgate. He believed that as a father of so many children, Newgate would definitely understand his feelings. But if they are bullied and run back to me crying, no matter who it is, I will definitely settle this matter to the end. The magical breeding house will always be the backstage for these children. These words are simply spoken naturally. Previously, Dak had no preconceptions in his mind, and he didn't know that he would suddenly want to say such words at such a time. He's just really worried that these cute little guys will be bullied in the future. He has already proclaimed himself as a member of his maternal family. Whoever comes back to the store to take Pokémon away in the future will repeat these words. Darkly stood aside and nodded. Although he only had a chance encounter with these unborn little ones, he didn't mind taking action to teach the villains who bullied Pokémon a lesson. Okay. Newgate extended a hand to stop Marco and Sachai, who were planning to make some promises, but nodded in agreement. He knows that any promises or guarantees at this time are meaningless. Time will prove whether their Whitebeard pirates are qualified companions. So, please, please. Dak bowed to Newgate, while also feeling relieved in his heart. Edward Newgate. He trusts this person. I just don't know which lucky child will be chosen by this man. Dad, this is it. Saki stood aside and stared for a long time, then pointed to the pink and tender egg. I think this is also the most pleasing, just like, this child is destined to become our family. Marco nodded. He felt a comfortable energy from the pink egg, which was not related to the dominance of sight and smell, but more like a resonance generated by his own fruit ability. Well, then let her do it. She looks like a girl. Newgate glanced and revealed his aunt's smile, as the small pink ball was not as big as his fingernail. Ha ha ha, Dad wants his daughter now. Saki couldn't help but laugh on the side and reached out to pat Newgate's knee. Marco, on the other hand, picked up the egg from the ground with burning eyes, and held onto the warm egg with both hands, appearing stunned. Although it was just an egg, Marco could feel the young and vibrant little life inside the egg. This is their unborn family. Declei watched as Marco carried away the egg he had just held, feeling a sudden sense of desolation in his heart, and went straight into Declei's shadow without coming out. What do I need for you? Newgate looked at Dak. This kind of magical creature full of potential must not be something that normal things can buy, right? Even if they sell 1 billion belly, they think there's no problem. This idea is a consensus in the minds of the three Newgate people. But they all have an intuition in their hearts that this person won't mess with them. 1 million bellies. Dak looked at the egg and spoke silently. The system does not specify a price upper limit for Pokémon eggs, only a lower limit. 0.100000 belly. This is the first Pokémon egg he sold, with extraordinary significance, and he didn't even have time to take care of the child before selling it. Fortunately, the Whitebeard pirates are trustworthy customers. Various emotions conspired in his heart and became complicated, and in the end, Dak only offered a relatively low price. This price is not even 1% of a demon fruit. Okay. The button cap nodded, without saying much, and walked out of the store with the children. Everyone knows whether this price is high or low, and it was not surprising for the three of them when Dak set this price, because Dak did not give them the feeling of being purely profit-oriented businessmen. They need to go back to retrieve money, and for them, things like Bailey are unlikely to be carried with them because their clothes often break during fights. Hey, by the way, store manager, today is Dad's birthday. Come and attend the banquet together on the Mobadik. Before leaving, Saki turned his head and said to Dak. Is it your birthday? Alright, you guys go back first, I'll come back later. Dak took 2 steps forward, placing his hand on the door and thinking about the deck on the Mobidic just now. Then he opened the door, which automatically expanded to the extent that Newgate was enough to go out. Outside the door, it was clearly the place where they had just entered. Waiting for you. Newgate left a sentence and led the way out, returning to the Mobidic. Marcel and Sachai followed behind and walked out together. Meanwhile, Dake stood in the store and opened the task panel. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Qualifications and Pricing, please follow up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Qualifications and Pricing, please follow up. Main task. The starting point of the trainer, completed, obtained. Ability. Qualification detection, Pokémon, the main task has been completed, and the ability column in the personal panel has added the option of qualification detection. However, this is an ability that does not display a level, so there must be no higher level for this level. Main task updated, main task. Cultivate Lesson 1. Crystal block making, content. Prepare your own materials and successfully create a qualified Pokémon crystal block manually according to the guidance of Nurturing Home. From newcomer to master. Reward. Store expansion. Production and residential areas, sure enough, it can still be expanded. This task must be completed as soon as possible. It's best to finish it in the next 2 days, otherwise you won't even be able to find a place to sleep. Dak looked around and there weren't too many surprises. As a breeding house that aims to open up all over the world, how could it always be so big? That residential area, on the other hand, is too necessary for Dake. Now there is not even a place to take a shower or use the restroom in this store. The daily tasks are still those 3, all of which are relatively simple tasks. I happen to do task before going to the Mobidic and task after going to the Mobidic, while also seeking help from the Whitebeard pirates. Open the magic mall. Dak muttered silently, and then a panel appeared before his eyes. Balance. 0 magic coins. Magic coin is the exchange currency of Magic Mall, and it is also the capital required to start the magic wheel. 10,000 Bailey is equal to 1 magic coin. There are many things displayed on the panel, too many, too many. There is everything from specific Pokémon eggs to specific Pokémon related props. Even rare props such as stone slabs, precious pearls, and specific super advanced fossils can be purchased, but the prices are also quite expensive. However, some of these things seem to have been modified. For example, Resurrection Grass, which can only act on Pokémon, can also be used on humans and eliminates the side effects of reducing favorability. Revival Grass. As long as there is 1 breath left, it can fully recover to a healthy state. There are also some things that will definitely make the entire ocean go crazy if released, such as Tears of the Phoenix King. Bring the dead back to life. Close. Dake was not too excited because these things were not something he could afford now. However, there were many ideas in his heart, as if he had found a way to change the current world situation. Forget it, those are still too far away. Let's try new abilities first. Dak shook his head, pulled his attention back, and focused on the eggs under the tree. Qualification detection green blue purple green white purple blue green blue 1 white, 3 green, 3 blue, and 2 purple, with the highest proportion of green and blue, should be the average qualification of Pokémon egg. Dak frowned as he looked at the sudden color emanating from around the eggs. This ability is more useless than he thought. He thought he could at least detect what Pokémon the unborn egg was, but surprisingly, he could only detect qualifications. And it's still a way of only highlighting 1 color. It's like this ability is just for me to better set prices for different Pokémon eggs. Dak walked over and picked up the green egg that showed white, which was the worst qualified egg. This made him feel a little uncomfortable. In his view, the future of Pokémon is infinite, and qualifications should not be used in Pokémon. System, does the qualification here represent the upper limit of Pokémon? Dake reached out and caressed the green egg in his arms, then asked a somewhat unwilling question. Qualifications do not represent the upper limit of Pokémon, the upper limit of Pokémon is infinite. Qualifications only represent the degree of rewards obtained by Pokémon after their efforts, that is, the progress speed. Upon hearing such an explanation, Dak immediately smiled with relief. Does this fit his impression of Pokémon? I put the egg back in my arms and felt a little relieved. What is the specific level of qualification? White, green, blue, purple, orange, gold, red. You can enhance the qualifications of Pokémon by purchasing items from the Magic Mall. Dak pinched his chin and looked at the group of eggs, then began to think about pricing in his heart. White 100,000, green 1 million, blue 10 million, purple 100 million, orange 1 billion, gold 1 billion, let's talk when red meets. Dak nodded, feeling that the pricing was good. The level of white and green is obviously prepared for ordinary customers. If they want to buy Pokémon, it is mostly not for ambition, but because they are lonely in life and want to find a companion or daily helper. If such trainers could be found as partners, then these less qualified Pokémon would not need to feel the pressure of becoming stronger. The pricing strategy of Pokémon before and after birth cannot be the same. After birth, the personality, attributes, and characteristics of Pokémon will be revealed, and each Pokémon will have a different price. Of course, the most crucial thing is Pokémon's own willingness. After birth, Pokémon will gradually develop their own willpower, and each Pokémon has a different idea. Some are willing to leave the breeding house, but there are certainly those who want to stay by the side of Dak. At that time, it will not be the guests choosing Pokémon, but rather the mutual choice between each other. Only when both the Pokémon and the customer are in eye contact, will Dak start considering the price of this Pokémon. Specifically, it is necessary to analyze the financial situation of that customer. If that person is really poor and unable to make a living, Dak will also lower the price to the bottom price of 100,000 Bailey. After all, Pokémon also wants to leave with him. He cannot force Pokémon to stay because he has less money. Dak silently formulated such a set of rules in his heart. Darkly. Dak. Declei gradually emerged from Declei's shadow, with a still low mood. Dak used his aptitude detection to look at the light on Declei's body, golden, almost blinding his eyes. But he glanced at the level of Drake in the panel, LV.100. System, can't Darkly's level be further improved? Declei has only reached the maximum strength limit of the One Piece world. Due to the special nature of his Dark Hole ability, continuing to grow may disrupt the spatial order of this world, so he is limited by the world. Returning to the original world, he can still continue to increase his level. Currently, Declei is equivalent to LV.85 of the original world. Even if unable to level up, Darkly can improve his combat power by learning or mastering the power of this world. Is the original world the world of Pokémon, but LV.85? Dake was somewhat surprised. He thought that his Darkly was also at the ceiling level in the world of Pokémon, and it looked much worse. However, it doesn't matter. He believes that with the help of the system, Darkly can reach that level. Even without his help, it shouldn't be very difficult with Darkly's qualifications. Darkly, let's bathe the eggs together. Dak. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Birthday Gift Pocket Token, read after. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Birthday Gift. Pocket Token, read after. Daily Task. Clean the storefront and wipe Pokémon eggs. Isn't this just bathing the eggs? It's broken, we don't have any daily necessities in our store. Not to mention the brooms used to clean the store, not even the towels used to wipe eggs. And if we can't complete the main task by today, we'll probably have to sleep on the lawn tonight. Dak helplessly covered his head, forgetting all the things that had just happened. You must buy some necessary things before dark to come back. Go to Newgate's birthday party and exchange some essential items from the Whitebeard Pirates. Daily Task 2. Take the Pokémon for a walk outside the store. Dak nodded and then greeted Dak Lai as they walked towards the door with their eggs. With Pokémon's help, it would be very easy. There was no need for Dark to hug each one, and Dark waved his hand and sent the remaining 9 eggs into the dark space, which was like a storage space for living things. The store door opens. Dak originally thought there would be a group of people welcoming him, but he didn't expect it. The entire white-bearded pirate group was surrounded by Marco on 3 levels, all staring at the pink egg he was holding in his hands. Dak shook his head and smiled, feeling quite pleased with the scene. I'm sure that little guy will be spoiled a lot when he is born in the future. At this moment, Dak suddenly remembered that he had not yet the qualifications to detect that pink egg. Although it was no longer important to detect this now, he couldn't help but take a glance. Purple. An egg worth 1 billion Bailey was thrown out by oneself for 1 million. Sigh. Dak sighed, but the smile on his face did not dissipate. Although he lost a lot of money, there was no regret at all. With a breeding house in hand, he was not worried about not making money in the future. Yo, the store manager is here. Little ones, this is our in-laws, call someone. At this moment, Saki noticed Dak and Dak Lai, raised his hand and waved it very politely. Store manager XN being called by thousands of people, Dak felt a bit embarrassed and raised his hand to rub his hair, pretending to be distressed. Golala, don't be polite, Dak. We'll have more interactions in the future. Newgate couldn't help but burst into laughter upon seeing this scene. With the level of magic that Dak has shown today, their Whitebeard pirates are destined to have more contact with each other. Not to mention that now they have an extra baby waiting to be born on the ship. When the child is born, if there is anything they don't understand, they will have to frequently ask Dak, as communication is bound to be more frequent. Okay. Dak nodded and then took out a sky blue jade pendant from his pocket. Newgate, this is a birthday gift for you, a pocket token. With this thing, you can easily open the door and head to the magical breeding house. Happy birthday, he said, Roar, this is a great thing. Thank you, Dak. Don't be too shy today. We can do whatever we want here. Although it's called a birthday party, it actually only starts tonight. Newgate was momentarily stunned when he heard Darker's voice, and then he accepted the small jade piece that was only a little bit to him. The value of this thing goes without saying, others need luck to go to the magical breeding house, and they can quickly reach there with this thing. He was stunned because Dak called his name directly. This name is too old for him, he even forgot how many years ago he was last called by name. Everyone only calls him now Whitebeard. When Newgate received the small jade piece in his hand, the pocket token miraculously grew larger, just enough for Newgate to hold it in one hand before stopping. Wow! How amazing! Surprisingly, I have grown bigger myself. However, for the magical breeding house, it shouldn't be much of a deal. I still can't accept what I just heard. This peculiar scene made everyone on the Mobidic unable to resist discussing. Tiki, hidden in the crowd, always kept his gaze on Darkly, a gaze full of interest and desire. Darkly could actually detect the gaze of others, but there were too many people who focused their attention on him, so they didn't pay special attention to this one. Saki. Dak didn't care about everyone's discussion, but walked up to the more talkative Saki. What's going on? I would like to borrow your kitchen and ingredients. After some consideration, Dak decided to try to complete the main task first. Let's talk about other things later. It's still early now, so it's not too late to go back in the evening. Do you want to cook? Saki hesitated for a moment, tilted his head curiously and looked at Dak. As the head chef of the Whitebeard Pirates, he led his team to be responsible for the meals of all members of the team, and his cooking skills can be said to have reached the top level of this sea. No, I'm planning to try making some snacks. I'm more interested in cooking. Oh, this way, I'll take you there. You can use everything in the kitchen as you please. Upon hearing what Dak said, Saki felt a bit disinterested. He thought Dak would do something interesting. After delivering Dak to the kitchen, Satch left directly and had to go busy with some arrangements for the birthday party that evening. No one there, it's just right. Dak looked at the empty kitchen and stretched lazily. Poké cubes will also become one of the exclusive products of their magical cultivation house in the future, so it is natural to try to avoid being learned by others. No one was watching, so Dak could just try to make Poké blocks with his fists and feet. He took out the book, Cultivator. From newcomer to master, that was gifted in the system, and then flipped to the block making section. The simplest type of Poké cube is black and doesn't even have an exclusive name. It is a universal entry-level test for newcomers and is also the preferred target for DAQ. This black Poké cube has low nutritional value and almost no taste, and has no other function besides being able to fill the stomach. Its few advantages are low cost and simple production. In the world of Pokémon, even poor trainers wouldn't buy this type of Pokémon because it's better to let Pokémon go directly to the forest to eat fruit. Tree fruits at least have a rich flavor and some nutrients. Making materials. Dak glanced at the production materials, all of which were tree fruits that could only be found in the world of Pokémon. In fact, you can buy a lot of these at a very low price in the Magic Mall, but now Dak doesn't plan to buy those. He wants to try what kind of Pokémon can be made from the fruits of the pirate world. After all, there are some fruits in the world of pirates that look similar to those in the materials, and many of their properties are the same. Maybe these materials can also be used to make Poké cubes. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Poké blocks, read later. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Poké blocks, read later. If there were a fruit mixer, that would be great. Dak was clumsily cutting various strange-shaped fruits in the kitchen. If there is a tree fruit mixer, it can easily produce a small amount of Poké cubes, and if there is a Poké cube making machine, it can even produce a large number of Poké cubes. If there are more customers coming to purchase Poké cubes in the future, such a manufacturing machine is essential. Dak. Darkly curiously circled around Darkly, looking at the movements of his hands with some confusion. I'm trying to make food, and when I become stronger, you'll have a taste buds. Dak couldn't help but grin. If Pokémon could show a happy smile with just one Poké cube, then he would have a great sense of achievement. Dak. Darkly nodded and patiently stood aside. Those eggs are still in his dark space. Machines can easily produce a large number of Poké blocks, but the highest quality Poké blocks are always made manually. This is a sentence from the cultivation book that cannot be understood with the current cultivation level of Dak. Can human hands be even more delicate than machines? That should be difficult. I didn't succeed, it was quite easy. On his first attempt, Dak successfully obtained 3 small black Poké blocks. Main task. Cultivate Lesson 1. Crystal block making, completed, obtained. Store expansion. Production and residential areas, the task was easily completed. Although Dak really wants to go back and see what the store has become, he still has a lot to do now. When I first opened a store, I always have to be busy and lively, and after a while, it will become easier. Dak comforted himself so much. Dak. Darkly leaned over and reached out his hand to poke the Poké cube made by Darkly. The black Poké cube was the size of a candy, looking dull and without any elasticity. It was easily shattered by a light poke from Darkly. Dak. Declei looked at Declei in a panic and then lowered his head. Although Dark still couldn't understand Darkly's emotions, he thought that Darkly must be blaming himself now. It's okay, this is not a precious thing, and it didn't take me much effort. Do you want to try it? Dark casually reached out and rubbed Darkly's head. The flame-like white hair on Darkly's head felt strange to the touch, as if touching a ball of water, somewhat cool. Dak. Darkly looked up at Darkly and then nodded. He pinched a poke cube and placed it inside his red scarf, then began to chew. Without chewing twice, he couldn't help but sneak a glance at Dak. Despite Darkly's careful gaze, he was still noticed by Darkly. Ha ha ha, isn't the taste very good? Dak saw what Darkly meant and smiled awkwardly. However, he was also prepared in his heart. It was strange that a mixture of avocado, banana, and kiwi fruit would taste good. Although the produced poke blocks were not very good, Dak's idea was also confirmed. Even fruits from the world of pirates can be used to make poke cubes, and perhaps new varieties of cubes can be developed in the future. Dak. Darkly shook his head and then threw the remaining poke cubes into his mouth to swallow. He doesn't need to eat anything, and if he wants to eat, biological nightmares are a delicious food for him. Darkly, put the eggs here and we'll take them out for a walk and bask in the sun. Dak brought a small cart from the side. This seems to be a small car used by the Whitebeard pirates to buy groceries and transport ingredients. Darkly nodded and waved his hand. A black hole emerged from mid-air, and the eggs gently landed on the cart. 9 pieces. One is quite a lot. Watching that there were no problems with the eggs, Dak nodded and pushed the car towards the outside. As soon as they arrived on the deck, the eggs received a lot of attention. Many familiar people couldn't help but approach and ask questions, clearly curious about the eggs. Dak explained what he knew while pushing the eggs around. About 15 minutes later. Daily Task 2. Take the Pokémon for a walk outside the store, completed, obtained. Agility increases trace experience, the daily tasks have been completed. It feels quite obvious. Dake lowered his head to look at his body, and from the outside, there was no change. However, he could clearly feel that his physical fitness seemed to have improved, especially in terms of body speed, neural response speed, etc., which was particularly evident. Although it is a trace experience. But for ordinary people like Dake, this level of improvement is already very obvious. If we continue like this, we will eventually be able to preach in our own bodies. Dak nodded and began to imagine his beautiful and bright future. Hey, Dak, when was this little thing born? Marco held a pink egg in his arms, although his face showed little concern, he would turn around and refuse to give it to others if they wanted to. Pokémon usually stay inside the egg for no more than a month. If it suddenly starts to flash on a certain day, it means it will be born within a day. Dak also doesn't know when the Pokémon in the egg will hatch, after all, it's also his first time. He doesn't even know the age of these eggs, he might wake up tomorrow and they will all be born. He can only answer Marco based on what he sees in the cultivation book. These little ones have been born, you must bring them for us to see. Saki pointed to the colorful eggs inside the cart, with a curious expression on his face. He is really super interested in these magical little guys. Okay, we'll bring them to see the world then. Dak nodded with a smile and did not refuse. The little ones can't always stay in the bigger part of the store, they always have to go out and play. Time passed quickly, and Dake was worried that the evening breeze in the new world would cool the eggs. He first sent them back to the store, placed them under a tree, and immediately rushed back. As the sun completely set, Newgate's birthday party also began. The carnival gradually began on the Mobidic, and the entire Whitebeard pirate squad was lively, singing, dancing, cross-legged drinking, boxing, and wrist wrestling together. They are all very traditional activities, but they are more human and lively than before when we went to KTV, stripped the skewers and restaurants together. This is Dak's first time attending the Pirates' Banquet, and it was a very special experience for him. However, looking at the group of white-bearded pirates in front of him, Dak couldn't help but feel lonely while sitting in the corner drinking. Although I used to be single in the world, the environment around me was cold and lonely, so I didn't feel much. But after seeing the feelings between the crew members of the Whitebeard pirates, the sense of loneliness was infinitely magnified in Dak's heart, making him realize his loneliness. Dak. Darkly glanced at Darker in confusion, not understanding why Darker didn't go play together. Yes, I still have you. Dak was momentarily stunned when he saw the sudden appearance of Dak Lai, then regained his composure and couldn't help but show a happy smile. He extended his arm over Dak Lai's shoulder and embraced him, leaving the latter confused. I am also different from the past. I will have many family members in the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. New Room, read after. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. New Room, read after. When he woke up the next day, Dak woke up from the lawn of the store. He doesn't even know how he got back to the store last night. He drank a broken piece. However, strange sensations came from all over his body, making him somewhat confused. To be precise, it seems to have become stronger. Darkly, what did I do after coming back last night? Dak. Dark couldn't understand Darkly's language, but fortunately Darkly paired it with actions. Through Darkly's movements, Darkly probably knew that even if he got drunk last night, he didn't forget to complete 2 daily tasks. The daily tasks have not changed. Are these 3 the same for today's tasks? Dak rubbed his head, walked to the lake, squatted down to rinse his mouth, and then looked at the task panel. By the way, Darkly, organize your things. As Dak was walking around the store, he suddenly noticed a large amount of items piled up in the corner, which reminded him of yesterday when he purchased many daily necessities, furniture, and other items from the Whitebeard pirates. Although the members of the Whitebeard pirates did not receive any money. At the same time, he also noticed 2 extra doors on the wall facing the store door. The distance between the 2 doors is approximately 5 meters. New room. Dak's eyes showed a hopeful expression and he walked towards the room on the left first. Open the door. A 5 by 4.5 by 10 space with a walking area of 22.5 square meters, which is slightly larger than a typical student dormitory. The interior is completely empty, with only one light on the ceiling that can switch between white and orange-yellow. However, in the innermost testing, there is also a small room, which is an independent bathroom with a shower and a bathtub for bathing. The walls, floors, and ceilings are all made of wood-like materials. Shoes make a crisp sound when stepped on the floor, but when touched, they are warm and sturdy. Just like the storefront outside, it seems that there will never be any change here, and it always maintains a comfortable humidity and temperature. After the furniture and other things are completely placed inside, this is a cozy little nest. Dark walked out of the living room and asked Darkly to help move the furniture inside, then entered the room on the other side. The size is exactly the same, but the wall color is pure white. The interior space also only has a light, but Dak probably knows what to add to it. He has seen many machines related to Pokémon in the Magic Mall, and when he has money to buy them in the future, he can put them inside for research. There are sets for mass production of Pokémon blocks, as well as fossil resurrection machines that can revive ancient Pokémon, and even machines for making Pokémon balls and Pokémon teleportation devices. If we want to do big things in the future, then these are all necessary, but it still seems a bit far away now. There is a 1 meter thick wall in the middle of the 2 rooms, which provides excellent sound insulation. Dak walked out of the room and helped Dak Lai tidy up the bedroom. From now on, that would be where they slept, so they had to tidy up properly. The items given by the Whitebeard pirates are very comprehensive. Necessary beds, tables, chairs, blankets, toothbrushes, wash basins, towels, and even water dispensers, water heaters, mirrors, wardrobes, refrigerators, etc. are available. He moved appliances such as water heaters and refrigerators to the adjacent manufacturing room for the first time. When those things fell to the ground, sockets naturally appeared on the wall, and it was unclear where the electricity came from. However, the Whitebeard pirates also gave a lot of chaos. It must have been those foolish crew members who secretly stuffed it in. For example, dumbbells, foot wash basins, pillows, yoga mats, selfies, and meat mushrooms. All the useless things were brought into the dark space by Darkly, waiting to be returned to them the next time they went aboard the Mobidic. It's already afternoon so soon. When Dak finished tidying up the room and looked up at the hanging clock, he found that it was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They haven't even had lunch yet. Darkly, bring the eggs and let's go out for dinner, take a walk, sunbathe, and buy some pots and pans, seasonings, ingredients, and so on. Dake plans to turn the manufacturing room into a kitchen first, so he needs to buy some things. The 1 million Bailey I received from the Whitebeard pirates yesterday was for today's collection of items, otherwise he would have exchanged it for 100 magical coins. They can't go out every time to find food. If they ever go to a dangerous place, it's better not to go out as much as possible. There's one more thing to say, he has to buy some hats, necklaces, clothes, and even cosmetics and other things. For the main task of cultivating the second lesson. Pokémon Beauty. When he thought of this, Dark secretly glanced at Darkly and saw that the other person noticed him quickly retracting his gaze, feeling guilty in his heart. There is no other way, he only has a Pokémon with Darkly by his side. Dak. Darkly nodded, raised his hand, and sent the eggs into the dark space. He did not notice what was wrong with Darkly, nor did he know what he was going to suffer. At this moment, Dak couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, the first Pokémon was a calm and well-behaved Dak-a-lai. If it were for other Pokémon, it wouldn't necessarily be helpful. Like the Leaf King or the Cabby Beast, when feeling lazy, they just lie on the ground and don't move. Wait a minute. Deku walked towards the store door with Deku-lai, then opened the door again. However, before stepping out, he withdrew and asked the system, what should I do if a customer comes in while I'm out? When there is no one in the store will automatically close, okay? Dak nodded, relieved. Open the door and take one step. Next second. Dak brought Dak-lai to a city. It shouldn't be an unnamed little place. Dak looked around. This city is quite lively, with a large population and people everywhere in the streets and alleys. Moreover, the city is harmonious and there are no chaotic pirate disturbances. Public security is relatively good. Looking back. Dake found himself standing at the entrance of a clothing store, and from someone else's perspective, he had just walked out of the store. When Darkly appeared in such a public place, it caused quite a stir, and even a few screams. It seems that a few women or children were scared by Darkly's appearance. Based solely on this exaggerated reaction, Dak guessed that this place was probably not a great route, but rather belonged to some place in the world. There are all kinds of monsters on the Great Voyage, and the people living there have a very strong ability to accept them. Even if they were surprised to see Darkly, they wouldn't give such a big reaction. This made Darkly feel a bit disappointed, and as soon as he reached Ku's shadow, he planned to dive in, but he was still caught by Darkly. Don't be sad, after all, they haven't seen Pokémon before, and it's hard for them to accept it for a while. In the future, when we grow up, it's good. You can't hide in your shadow for a lifetime, and I also need you to help me carry my eggs. Dak comforted Cly for a moment. In his opinion, this is not a problem at all. Even skeletons like Brooke and Dressrosa's toys can live openly in this world, so Pokémon are unreasonable. He didn't intend to let Pokémon adapt to this world, but chose to let this world adapt to Pokémon. Dak. Darkly hesitated for a moment when he heard what Darker said, then nodded and stayed by his side. End of this chapter.